The verdict: the chamber of the Galactic Council had witnessed 10,000 years of diplomacy. Its crystalline walls refracted light from a dozen suns, casting prismatic shadows across representatives of 47 civilizations. Today, those shadows fell darkest on the human delegation. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood at the center of the amphitheater, her spine straight despite the weight of 1 billion watching eyes, both in this chamber and across the Ansible network spanning known space. Beside her, Admiral Marcus Chin remained perfectly still, his decorated uniform a stark contrast to the flowing bioluminescent robes and chitinous exoskeletons surrounding them. The eldest of the Catharan consensus spoke first, its voice a harmonic chord that vibrated through the translation matrix: humanity. In the mere 4 centuries since your emergence into galactic society, you have destabilized 3 economic zones, appropriated technologies you were not ready to possess, and expanded at a rate that threatens the delicate balance we have maintained for millennia. Elena's jaw tightened. Appropriated, as if humanity's genius for reverse engineering and improvement was theft rather than innovation. The Verdani ambassador, a being of living crystal, added its resonance. Your species does not respect the natural order. You terraform worlds in decades that should take centuries. You splice your genetics with abandon. You treat the laws of physics as suggestions rather than boundaries. We treat them as puzzles, Elena replied quietly. Is curiosity now a crime? Unchecked curiosity is destruction, rumbled the Draconid representative, its 3 heads speaking in unsettling unison. You are children playing with antimatter. Your ambition exceeds your wisdom by orders of magnitude. Admiral Chin finally spoke, his voice carrying the weight of a dozen military campaigns. We have broken no treaties, violated no sovereign space. Every world we've settled was unclaimed or willingly traded for. Legally, perhaps, the eldest conceded, but you disrupt simply by existing. Your adaptability makes long-term planning impossible. Your innovation renders our carefully cultivated industries obsolete overnight. You are the chaos that threatens 10,000 years of order. The chamber fell silent. Elena felt the Ansible network's pulse with transmitted data, the verdict being shared across light years in real time. The Council has reached consensus, the eldest pronounced. Humanity will be relocated to the Perseus Arm. All 40 billion of you. Your colonies, your infrastructure, your ships. Everything beyond the outer rim will be dismantled. You will have 1 standard year to evacuate. Elena's breath caught. The Perseus Arm, the dark frontier beyond mapped space where survey drones disappeared and long-range scans showed only anomalies and silence. You're exiling an entire species? She whispered. We are giving you a frontier worthy of your ambition. The Verdani replied almost gently. Perhaps there, far from the civilizations you destabilize, you will find either humility or oblivion. Part 2. The Exodus. The Great Exodus became humanity's defining moment. A mass migration that would echo through the ages. 2,000 ships. From continent-sized generation vessels to nimble scout cruisers. 40 billion people. Every library, every seed bank, every work of art humanity had ever created. Elena coordinated the civilian evacuation, while Marcus organized the military escort. A fleet of warships that the Council graciously allowed them to keep, likely anticipating they'd need them in the unknown. The journey would take 18 months at maximum FTL, 18 months of uncertainty, cramped quarters, and dwindling hope. Elena stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, humanity's flagship, watching the last stars of the Orion Arm fade behind them. Beside her, Marcus studied the long-range scans of their destination with a strategist's eye. The Perseus Arm is larger than all of Council space combined, he noted. Older, too. Some of these stellar formations predate the galactic core. That's supposed to comfort me? Elena asked wryly. It means opportunities, resources, and if we're lucky. He paused, highlighting an anomalous energy reading, things the Council never found. The ships pressed deeper into the dark. Star density decreased. The familiar constellations of home warped and vanished. Children born in transit would never see Earth's sun. The psychological toll mounted daily. Suicide rates climbed, depression became epidemic. Humanity faced its darkest hour. Then, in the 7th month, they found the ruins. Part 3. The Architects. The structure appeared on long-range scans as an impossibility. A Dyson ring around a dying star, its surface area equivalent to 10,000 Earths. But unlike any Dyson sphere in Council records, this one was old. Carbon dating of debris fragments suggested it was 4 billion years ancient, older than Earth itself. The architects, Elena whispered, staring at the hieroglyphic-covered walls of the first intact structure they'd breached. The name had emerged organically among the research teams. Whoever built this place had literally architected reality itself. The technology they discovered was staggering. Not just advanced, but paradigm-shattering. Power generation that tapped zero-point energy directly from quantum foam. FTL drives that folded space rather than punching through it. Materials science that violated what humanity thought were thermodynamic limits. But more than technology, they found knowledge. The architects had mapped not just the Perseus arm, but the dark matter web underlying the entire galaxy. They'd cataloged civilizations that rose and fell before Earth's sun ignited. They'd left behind not a tomb but a library, and perhaps a test. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, humanity's foremost xenoarchaeologist, made the breakthrough. The text isn't just records, she explained to Elena, her hands trembling with excitement. It's a curriculum. The architects structured everything as progressive lessons. It's like they expected someone to find this place eventually. Expected who? Marcus asked. Yuki's eyes gleamed. Species that were exiled, cast out, pushed beyond the boundaries of their safe, stagnant civilizations. Look, she brought up comparative linguistic analysis. Every warning sign, every safety protocol, it all shares root concepts with galactic lingua franca. The architects weren't the first civilization banished to the Perseus arm. They're just the ones who survived long enough to leave a message. The message was clear. Adapt or die. Transcend or fade. The edge of the galaxy is where evolution happens. Part 4. The transformation centuries passed. The Galactic Council's Ansible networks reached only to the border of the Perseus arm. Beyond that, humanity vanished into silence. The Council convinced themselves their judgment had been correct. The humans had either perished in the dark or been humbled into irrelevance. They were catastrophically wrong on both counts. Humanity didn't just survive in the Perseus arm, they thrived. The architect's technology became the foundation of a renaissance. Human scientists, freed from the Council's stifling regulations and patent cartels, innovated at exponential rates. They learned to weave ships from quantum-entangled carbon lattices that were simultaneously solid and permeable. They developed neural interfaces that didn't just connect to computers, but to the fabric of space-time itself. Navigators who could feel gravitational currents light years away. They found 43 habitable worlds and terraformed 200 more, not over centuries, but decades. Each world became a laboratory for biological and social experimentation. Genetic enhancement, once banned by Council decree, became normalized. Humanity split into specialized subspecies. The void-adapted navigators, the high-gravity builders, the long-lived archivists, who measured their lives in millennia. But they remained unified. The trauma of exile had forged something the Council never possessed: true solidarity. Every human, regardless of genetic clade or planetary origin, remembered the banishment. It became their founding mythology, the moment when humanity stopped asking permission and seized their own destiny. Elena Vasquez didn't live to see the full flowering of the human dominion. But her great-great-granddaughter, Admiral Commander Sarah Vasquez Chin, Marcus's line had merged with Elena's through marriage, stood on the bridge of the Transcendent, a warship that would have made the Council's dreadnoughts look like children's toys, and surveyed an empire that spanned 12,000 star systems. Report from the observation posts, her tactical officer announced. The Council space is fragmenting. The Catharan consensus has collapsed into civil war. The Draconid hegemony is facing resource depletion. The Verdani are in terminal demographic decline. Sarah studied the galactic map with eyes that had been genetically enhanced to process quantum probability clouds. She could see not just where the stars were, but where they would be in the causal web of space-time. The old empires were dying. Stagnation was a slow poison, and the Council had drunk deeply. Their ancient treaties had become chains. Their careful balance had become paralysis. They'd optimized for stability rather than growth, and in the long game of cosmic evolution, that was always fatal. They exiled us to save themselves from our disruption, Sarah mused. But disruption is just another word for evolution. They stopped evolving 6,000 years ago. We never stopped. Orders, Commander? Her XO asked. Sarah was silent for a long moment, watching the holographic map where the border of Council space pulsed weakly. Beyond it, the human dominion glowed with the light of 12,000 suns, a civilization at its apex. We wait, she finally said. Let them come to us. When they're desperate enough, when their carefully constructed order has crumbled to dust, they'll remember the species they cast into the dark, and they'll look to the Perseus arm and see what we've become. She smiled, an expression that would have chilled the Council's eldest to its crystalline core. Let them see that exile was not our punishment, it was our liberation. And when they beg for our aid, for our technology, for our intervention in their self-made catastrophes, we'll remind them of a very old human concept. What concept, Commander? Interest. They exiled 40 billion of us. There are now 600 billion humans across the Dominion. When we return to Council space, and we will return, it will be on our terms. Not as the disruptive children they cast out, but as the civilization that survived the dark and emerged stronger. She gestured to the map, to the vast expanse of the Perseus arm now filled with humanity's light. They tried to exile us to the edge of the galaxy. Instead, they exiled themselves to the center of irrelevance. The future doesn't belong to those who cling to order. It belongs to those who embrace chaos, who adapt, who evolve. Sarah turned away from the map, her decision made. The Council thought they were protecting the galaxy from us. In truth, they were protecting themselves from their own obsolescence. That protection has now expired. Epilogue. The return 3,000 years after the banishment, an answerable message reached the crumbling halls of the Galactic Council. It was brief. We remember. We have not forgotten. And we are coming home. The message signature was pure humanity, equal parts defiance and invitation. The council that had exiled them no longer existed in any meaningful sense. Their careful order had collapsed into 100 petty kingdoms squabbling over the ruins. But the humans remembered. And in the dark of the Perseus arm, an empire that had outlived the very stars that witnessed its banishment, prepared to step back into the light. Not as supplicants, not even as conquerors, but as something the old galaxy had never seen. A civilization that had transcended exile, evolved beyond limits, and emerged from darkness carrying the fire of 1 billion human dreams. The stars themselves would bend before that fire, and the galaxy, the new galaxy remade by disruption and adaptation, would finally understand what the Council never could. You cannot banish evolution. You can only delay its arrival. The end.